In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a Word document using Copilot Studio and return it to the chat window. More specifically, we're going to create a sales quote using only natural language. Let me show you what I mean. I'll come on over here to the chat window and type in my prompt. It says, create a quote for Banana Industries, which includes 3 Ergo Pro chairs, 1 Metro Wood desk, and 2 Titan storage. And what I want you to notice is I've only typed in a minimal amount of information here about the customer and the products. Here I'll hit the send button. And the first thing that's going to happen is the agent is going to start using its knowledge to obtain the product list and find out a little bit more about those products I asked for. Then it's going to pass that information and my chat message into the generate new quote prompt, and it's going to come back with a short quote summary. But look over here, I've got this link that says download quote. Let's click it and see what happens. And look at that, we've got a full Word document quote here, and it's filled in with all of the information that I asked for. But on top of that, look at this. The customer information is fully filled out with the customer number and the address, and the products have unit prices, line totals, and a grand total. So the agent has used its knowledge that is grounded in to generate this quote with rich, detailed text. There's so much more I want to teach you in today's lesson, so I hope you're excited. Let's dive in and build this agent. The first thing I want to do is head on over to Copilot Studio and create a brand new agent. Mine's called Sales Quote Generator Agent. Now the sales quote generated by this agent is going to come through in a standardized format. That means it always has the same look and feel. To do this, we're going to need to create a template, and we're going to create that template in Microsoft Word. So let's take a quick detour on over to Microsoft Word. I'll open up Word and I'm going to look at the More Templates menu. And if we want to see all of the different templates we can use that kind of look like a quote, I'm going to type in the word invoice, okay? And the one that we're going to use today is the Service Invoice Green Gradient Design. Now I know this one says invoice up at the top here, but we're going to modify this for our own purpose, and we're going to change this to say something like quote. Now the rest of the layout of this document is looking pretty good. We've got a date, an invoice number. We'll change that to quote number. We've got some fields we can change here for our customer's address and name. And then we've also got a place here where we can start to put in the quantity description, unit price, and line total of our products. But the question is, how do we do this? To indicate that an area of the document can be updated by the agent, we need to create what's called a placeholder that the agent can fill in. So we're going to go over here to the date field, type in 2 squiggly brackets, then type in the name quote date, because that'll be the name of our placeholder, and at the end, 2 other squiggly brackets on the right. That's all you need. That's a placeholder. And we can do it again over here too. Let's call this the quote number field. I'm going to type 2 squiggly brackets, quote number, and then cap it off with some more brackets at the end. And we can continue to do this throughout the document wherever the placeholder fields are needed. But what about this table information down here? This works a little bit differently because sometimes we're going to have 1 product on a quote, but other times we're going to have 3 products on a quote, or 5 products on a quote, or more. So how do we make this part of the template a little bit more dynamic? How do placeholders work within tables? Well, here's how you do it. The first thing we'll want to make is a field for product quantity. So first, I'm going to type in the name of the table, not the field name, the name of the table, which is called product. And then I'll type dot quantity and 2 ending brackets. So we've got the table name and the field name. And by the way, the table name is anything that you want it to be. I could have typed in products or items or something like that. Next, I'm going to continue to fill this table in with product.description. Got some more brackets there. We'll do the unit price, product.unit price. and then we'll do line total. So product dot, we'll just call it total instead. And then we can remove these other fields in the table. So by the way, even though you can't see this, this is actually a table in Microsoft Word. Look at that. So what I'm going to do is delete these 3 rows so that there's only one left. We can set those borders back to invisible. And there you go. So now we've got a table that's going to repeat based on the amount of products that are supplied by the agent. Now, I'm going to show you what the completed document looks like here because I don't want to fill in absolutely every field here right in front of you. So I will go ahead and open that up. Let's see what other fields we'll want to have filled in here. There we go. So we've got the quote date, the quote number. I've decided to hard code the company name because it's always going to be for my company, my fake company, Devaney Inc. We've got customer number, name, address, city, state, and zip code. And then down here we have all of the product information that we just created for ourselves. And we have a total amount finally here at the bottom. So all of these products are going to be summed up, and at the end there is going to be a total. Great. So now we've got our Word document template completed. Let's head on back into Copilot Studio now and start to fill in this document with our agent. I'll dismiss the window, and we're going to go to Tools over here because what we need to do is create an agent flow. We need to create an agent flow that's going to help us generate the Word document. Click Agent Flow, and the first thing that we'll need in this trigger is a trigger input, because we want to take in the information from the user's message and use it to populate the Word document. So we'll call this user message, and we'll just leave the description as please enter your input. The next thing we'll do is run a prompt action. And the prompt action is what's going to generate the Word document. Let's create a brand new one right here. Brand new custom prompt. In the prompt window, we'll call this generate quote, and it's actually going to be pretty simple. It's going to be a pretty simple prompt. I'll type in create a quote based on the user's message, period. And right there, I'll create an input variable that's called user message. That's pretty wildly simple, right? There's not a lot to it. But what we're also going to need is a message to test this prompt with. So for our sample data, I'll show you what I've got there. I'll say, I'd like to create a quote for the customer ABC Company at 123 Cherry Lane, Boston, Massachusetts, 921. Customer number is C1099. And that goes on to list the products, the units, the per unit price, the line total, and it's also got a quote date and a quote number. Now, this is a little bit verbose, right? Because somebody chatting with the agent is never going to type in this amount of information, but don't worry about that, because later on, we're going to look at grounding this agent in knowledge to get all this detailed stuff based on just a customer name and a couple of products. I'll hit close here, and then I think we're ready to test our agent. Maybe I'll switch this over to document preview first, and then I'll hit test. And right, we need to upload our document. So where was that document that we had saved? Let's select to browse. I'll upload my quote template. It's in use, so I'll close it, hit open, and here you can see all of the fields that I created as placeholders. Quote date, quote number. Remember, I created that, right? And if we scroll down, we can also see the table with quantities, descriptions, unit prices, and line totals. So it's recognizing the placeholders that we have in the document and showing them right here. Okay, now we can hit the test button. And in a few moments, we're going to have a sales quote generated by our agent. So here's the preview. This is how it did the field mapping. And look at this, it even did the math, which is pretty impressive. And up at the top here, we can click output.docx to see the preview. Look at that. Pretty much got it, right? That's awesome. So now let's continue building our agent flow so we can get this document back to the chat window. I'll hit save right here. And what do we need to do next? Well, the next thing that we're going to need to do is construct a link. We're going to need to construct a link to that Word document. And oh, by the way, let's link up the user message to this field right here, which says user message, right? We had user message as the agent flow input. Here we've got user message down below. So like I said, the next thing we need to do is construct a link to the Word document. What we'll want to do is save that document to the user's OneDrive. You could also save it to SharePoint, and then create a link to that file so that user can access it. Now, we also have the option to go and let the agent just pass the file over without creating a link, and that's just kind of in memory. But the reason that we want to do this is because you can only pass a limited amount of information from a flow back into a Copilot Studio agent. And this is just a limitation that has been set for good reason on any type of response, not just agent flows. So this is the safest way to do it to make sure that you're always going to get a result back no matter how large that file is. I'm going to choose a folder to drop that document into. Microsoft Copilot chat file seems pretty safe because, well, anybody with a Copilot will have that. Let's fill in the file content let's click see more here. It's got to be around here somewhere, right? With the content bytes. And for the file name, we want something that's completely unique each time. So what can we name this? I'm going to call it quote file underscore. And then I'm going to concatenate that with a random number. Let's do rand, and I'll do between 1,000 and 999. A potentially safer way to do this is to use a date time and append it to the end of the file. But here, we're just going to focus on learning how to generate the Word document. So you can do that if you like, as a little bit of an extra side project. So I'll call it .docx. So it's going to be a quote file and then a random 4-digit number and .docx. Here I'll click add. So now I've got the name of that file. The next thing that we'll need to do is construct the link after that file got created. So maybe we should run this really quick and just make sure that it works. And I can show you what information is output by this action. And we can use it. Let's hit the test button and we'll test manually. We're gonna need a user message. So I'll copy and paste that in. Then I'll hit run flow and let's see what information this create file comes back with, and let's make sure it's going to the proper folder. So the flow ran successfully, and wow, this thing is running pretty fast these days. I can go over here to raw outputs, and I can see that the path is Microsoft Copilot chat files, quote file 1789, but that's not a full path. That's just a folder path. We need the entire path to the document so the user can click on it and be navigated over to it. If I go on over to my OneDrive and I take a look at my files, gotta sort this by ascending to find anything, we can see here's my document. There we go, 1789. And up top here, we have got my domain, which is matthewdevaney@mysharepoint.com. So anything that we create is going to require that domain. But over here in the details, I think this is what I really want to show you. We've got the path. Let's copy and paste it. I'll put it into to Notepad here. And look at this. It's Matthew Devaney, SharePoint.com, and then my user principal name, documents, and then all that information we have in the path right there. So we're going to need to construct a URL with this format. So notice we've got the domain up here. That's something we can hard code, but every person who uses this document, this agent, is going to be different, so we can't hard code the user principal name. So let's get that with the flow instead of hard coding it. We'll head back on over to our agent flow, hit the edit button, and then what are we going to do? We're going to create an Office 365 users action, and we want to look for the current user. Let's hit see more and get my profile v2. Because an agent always runs in the context of the user who is interacting with it, we can use the get my profile v2 action here. And then we're going to do a compose, if I could spell that properly, to get the full path, to construct the full path. Now remember, we had that inside of our notepad, so I'm going to copy and paste it here. We have Matthew Devaney at mysharepoint.com. This is going to be different for you. Just go to your OneDrive and check out what that is. Over here, we have my user principal name. And what you're going to notice is that the dot and the @ symbol are turned into underscores, and that's to make it safe for URLs. You can't just type a dot or an @ symbol in a URL in your web browser and expect it to work, so it needs to be converted over to an underscore. Let's create a quick formula to do that for us. I'll replace this part with the formula, and the dynamic content that I'm looking for is the user principal name. I've got it right there. Then we'll type replace, and we want to replace any dots with an underscore. Then we want to type a second replace formula, and man, I wish you could replace multiple things with just one function, but you can't, so we'll type it twice, and I'll say @ and then underscore, just like that. So now the user principal name is going to be made URL safe. Then the final thing that we want to do is replace everything over here with the document path, with the folder path. So we can type in the word path, click add, and now we've got a completely dynamic URL that's going to update every time to where the document is actually living. The last thing that we'll want to do in this agent flow is pass that full path back over to our agent. So I'll click add an output, and we'll do full path. Then I'm going to pick the full path that we just created and put it here in the outputs. Now there's one more thing I want to do here, and I'll add the function encode URI component. And when I click this and I wrap it inside the function right here, this is going to take the URL that we created and once again make it URL safe to be used by the agent. What I was finding was that anytime there was a space in a folder name or a file name, like Microsoft Chat Copilot files, the agent was replacing them with little strange tilde symbols, squiggly dashes. So I needed to use encode URI component to make sure this was working. I'll click the add button, and it's always a good idea to go and give a short description of what this is. So I'll type in quote output by the agent, and then I'll click the test button. We can test it one more time to make sure that it works. And then once that's done, we'll give this agent flow a name, and we'll head on back over to Copilot Studio. Okay, the flow is running. The prompt is running. The prompt always takes the most amount of time. We can look over here at the full file path and let's make sure it's what we expect. And yep, looks exactly like we wanted it. That is perfect. Come on over here to the overview tab. I'll give this a nifty little name, generate new quote, and hit the save button. Now we can head back to our agent and start to configure that tool a little bit more that we just created. We'll open up the sales generator agent, sales quote generator agent, go to tools, and it's not showing up in our tools right here, but that's fine. I'll click on flow, generate new quote, should see it below, and add it to our agent. There we go, add and configure. There's only a few things you need to do in this menu over here. You should always give your tools a description so the agent knows when to use them. I'm just going to type in, use this action to generate a quote. But the more important bit is going to be down here in the inputs. Now in our Word document, we have a very specific set of inputs that we need, but you'll notice that we've only given one field for the agent to pass those inputs through. So we need to give this field a further description to give the agent some hints. Let's leave the user message as dynamically fill with AI, and then we'll type in a description. This field is really, really small, so maybe I should show you inside of a notepad here what that description is going to look like, and then we'll go ahead and paste it in. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So we want to include the following information in the message passed to the workflow. The first is our customer number, and only include it if it follows the pattern C000. So there's a little bit of data format checking right there. We've got the customer name, we've got products, which is the table, quantity description, unit price, and line total. And then we've also got the total amount. And here for the line total and total amount, it gives the agent some further instructions on how to compute those things. I'm going to copy and paste that into the description. Then I'll hit the save button. And for completion, just note that we're using don't respond default because we want the agent to figure out what that response is going to be. One more thing we have to do before we head on over to the test pane and start to try this out. We'll go to instructions and we'll just type in some really simple instructions. When a quote is generated, number one, run the tool, generate new quote. So I hit that slash key so I could reference the tool directly. I press the save button, and I like putting more descriptions inside of my tool descriptions than my agent descriptions. That way when it runs them and it knows what it does. Here in the agent descriptions, I just like to tell it which tools to call or which topics to call when the user has a certain intent. Let's try this out. I'm going to paste in my message here, the same message that we use inside of the sample chat. We've got customer ABC company, we've got Boston, Massachusetts, we've got a couple different products, and we got quote date and quote number. Let's hit the send button right there. And this is, once again, a very verbose message that the user typically wouldn't send, but after we've got this working, we're going to start to ground our agent in knowledge so they can fill in some of those other pieces. That looks pretty good. That's exactly what we expected. We got ABC company, got the line items. Let's click on download quote, and let's see what we've got here. All right. So the first thing that you'll notice is that not all of the information that we typed into the chat window got picked up by the agent, but that's okay. It's working exactly as I intended. We've got the customer name, we've got the customer number, some information about the products and their prices. And remember, when we set up the sales quote agent flow tool, we gave it this description, only pass in the customer number, the customer name, the products, the line total. If we wanted to have more information pass through, we could have typed something like quote date, quote number here, and then all of the fields that have to do with the customer's address. But what we want to do instead is start to ground our agent with knowledge so that it can fill in that additional information about the customer, like street address, zip code, state, just based on the customer's name. And same thing with the product, and similar with the quote date and the quote number, because those need to be generated by the agent as well. So let's take a look at that next. The first thing I'd like to ground the agent with is some product knowledge. So let's go back to our agent. We'll head on over to the Knowledge tab, click Add Knowledge. And this product knowledge is going to be in an Excel sheet. So I'm going to show you an Excel sheet that I put together here. It's a list of product information. And here I have the product name, the category, the description, and the list price. So by the way, we're an office furniture retailer, and salespeople are using this agent to construct quotes. So they can type in any name of any product from the sheet or partial name, and the agent can go and extract the list price from it. So we've got 20 different rows here of products, and I'll go ahead and put a link to the show notes so you can just download this sheet and not have to type it out. Anyways, let's upload that file to our agent and click Add to Agent. And this usually just takes a moment, so we'll wait for the file to upload. Once the file is ready, it's important to give each piece of knowledge that we add a description. I'm going to update the description to use this knowledge source to get information about products, including product name, description, category, and list price. So now the agent knows exactly what this knowledge source provides. I'll hit the Save button. Now we've got the list of products. The next thing we need to supply are the list of accounts. And I'm going to show you another way that we can ground the agent in knowledge. This time we're going to do it in Dataverse. To look at the accounts table in Dataverse, we'll go to make.powerapps.com. It's just the easiest way to do it. Not sure why tables aren't exposed in copilotstudio.com. We'll go over to tables, hit the account button, and then let's go to edit. So right now I don't have any accounts in my accounts table, but you can imagine that a live system will probably have accounts in like SQL, Dataverse, or Dynamics, some place where structured information is kept and routinely updated. I'm going to fill in these account records with information from an Excel sheet that I have, and once again I'll put a link inside the show notes for you, but it looks like this. We've got account names. All of the companies are based on fruits. I like Mango Solutions the best for some reason. We've got account number, street, city, state, and zip code. And we can use this information to populate our table over in Dataverse. I'm going to select the fields that I want first though. I do want account name first, and then I want the account number. So there we go, account number. Get rid of primary contact. And then for the address, we're going to pick the street field, the state and province. We've already got the city. Then we'll need to look for the zip code. Address 1, zip code. So we got street, city, address, state and province, zip code. I think that's pretty much it. I'll copy in the information from my Excel sheet, and we'll come back here in a moment and see this table fully populated with data. We've got all the data in there now. We got companies, account numbers, streets, and everything else. Now let's ground our agent in this knowledge. We're going to do it a little bit differently than our product list. We're not going to add it to agent knowledge here. Instead, we're going to go into tools and ground the prompt directly with this knowledge. can click on agent flow, generate agent flow, then come on over here to the designer and we'll open up our prompt. We had a pretty simple prompt before, but now we're going to start to fill it in with a bit more information. Let's type in get the matching customer account information. And when I hit the slash key, I can go over to the Dataverse knowledge section here, and we can look at the account table and start to bring in some of that information that we populated the table with. So I'll do account number, account name. I've also got the street, city, state, and the zip code. I'll click add. Then all of these fields are now populated within the prompt. The other thing that you'll want to do is come on over to the prompt settings and bump up the record retrieval. I'm going to set this up to 1,000 here, which means that if our accounts table has 1,000 records, the prompt will consider all of them to see if they're a match for what the user has typed in. If there's over 1,000 records in your table, you're going to need to do some prompt filtering, some record retrieval filtering, but we're not going to get into that here today. Go back to instructions, and now instead of ABC company, let's say that we want a quote for a different company. Let's use Banana Industries. What a silly name. I think that was the name of the customer. We'll hit the close button and test. And when we do this, we should see that the prompt was properly grounded with Dataverse knowledge, and it should pull back customer number and address from the Dataverse record itself. So there we go, 202 Oak Avenue, San Diego, California, and a whole bunch of other stuff. There's two other quick ways that I want to introduce grounding into this prompt. I do want to get a quote date going here. So we'll say the quote date is, and the quote date is always going to be today's date. It makes sense, right? It's a quote based on today's knowledge. So we'll hit slash and we'll do a PowerFx formula with today's date. Today's date. And it's really simple to get today's date. You just type in today in the two brackets. That's the today function. Then one more thing I want to do is give the ability to pass in the quote number. I'll say the quote number is, and then type in text. Here we'll call this quote number. And in this field, you'd probably want to use something like an auto number passed in by the agent, or passed in by the prompt somewhere, the agent flow. But in this case, I don't really want to go to that length in this video, so we're just gonna type in 999 for the quote number, and you can figure out some way to do a unique quote number for yourself. We'll have to repopulate this user message here with data. We'll hit publish, and now our agent is grounded with all the knowledge it needs to work exactly as we want it to. Before we go ahead and test that prompt again, it's important to update our agent instructions because we've added a few new things. I'll hit edit, and now the first thing we want the agent to do is to read the price list, to find the name and list price of each product. If we don't give the agent that instruction, it's not going to use its knowledge to find that information. It just won't know what to do. But we don't need to type in additional information about getting the customer name and its details or today's date and other things, because that's all included inside the prompt. We've given the instructions right there, the prompt action. Hit the save button, and now it's time to go ahead and test our agent. Let's head on over to the chat window and type in our prompt. Prompt says, create a quote for Banana Industries, which includes 3 Ergo Pro chairs, 1 Metro Wood desk, and 2 Titan storage. And once again, notice that we just have the customer name here. We just have the product names and quantities, and the agent is going to do the rest to fill in our Word document. So the first thing the agent does is it searches our knowledge sources to find that product list. And then it starts the generate a new quote flow, and it passes in all the information needed to generate that quote. And enough information that since the prompt is grounded in our Dataverse knowledge and our Excel knowledge, it should be able to pull the other additional information that it needs. Okay, so we've got our quote here, our sample quote, Banana Industries. Let's download the quote and see if we've got a great looking document. Look at that. We've got the full quote here. It's a Word document. It's fully editable. We've got all the customer information and the quantities and descriptions of our products. Great looking document generated by Copilot Studio. That's it. That's the video.